All right, time to bring in our guest now. He is a physician, a vegan health educator, conference and event speaker, and an author of articles and books of vegan medical advice. He has practiced acute medical care, certified in urgent care medicine, and has been a vegan since 1981. Oh, by the way, also a Jeopardy champion, and has appeared in such films as Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy, and What the Health. Please welcome to the podcast, Dr. Michael Klaper. Doc, we are so excited. Yeah, there's the clapping right there for Klaper. And thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to have you on, especially because, and you might not know this, we're actually doing our show from behind the cheddar curtain in Wisconsin. And you have kind of some history with that growing up on a dairy farm. And I've always been interested in, and from the time, that I've seen you in movies, it's like, okay, how did a guy growing up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin revolt against that? Because there's so much peer pressure to eat cheese curds and eat ice cream and go to Culver's and all of this kind of stuff. But you eschewed all that and went your own way. How did that all come about, Doc?
Well, as you say, I grew up eating the standard American diet until my mid-30s, and I assumed that milk and cheese and all that were a good source of protein and calcium and all of that stuff. But medical school grounded me in the basics of nutrition, and so I had an understanding that plants are really the ultimate source of all these nutrients. But very importantly, I was on the cardiovascular anesthesia service in Vancouver. I was going to be an anesthesiologist. And I was on the cardiovascular anesthesia service, and that's the one dealing with people's blood vessels. And day after day, I'm putting people to sleep and opening up and watching surgeons open up their coronary arteries in their heart and pulling this yellow, greasy guck out of their arteries called atherosclerosis that causes the heart attacks and strokes, etc. And my dad died of clogged arteries, and I knew that I've got those genes. And there were already studies in the medical literature showing that this atherosclerotic cholesterol-laden plaque can be melted away with a plant-based diet. So I was getting lots of messages to change to a plant-based diet before I was lying on that operating table with that striker saw going up my sternum. I sure didn't want that to happen. And consequently, I changed to a plant-based diet. Well, my body loved it. Within 12 weeks, a 20-pound spare tire of fat melted off my waist. My high blood pressure went to normal. My high cholesterol went to normal. I felt great waking up in a nice lean body every day. And at that point, once you look behind the curtain, you can't pretend you don't know what's behind the curtain. And I had left general practice after 6 years, getting so frustrated that all my patients were just getting fatter and sicker and getting strokes and heart attacks. I didn't know what to tell them. That's why I ran into anesthesia and thought there would be salvation there. But the truth finds you wherever you are. And after I had this experience and this revelation, I knew I didn't want to be an anesthesiologist, as noble as that profession is. But I didn't want to spend my time putting people to sleep for the rest of my career. I'd rather go back to general practice and help them wake up. And so I did, much to my parents' dismay, as I left my anesthesia residency with 6 months to go of my training. But it wasn't in truth for me to do that. And I became a plant-based physician, and soon my patients were experiencing the same benefits. The high blood pressure patients, you get them off their medicine because their blood pressure is normal. My diabetic patients had normal blood sugars. They got them off their insulin. And I turned into the happiest doctor I know. My patients get healthy right before my eyes. And so it's just basic science. But at that point, and it's been very evident that the meat and the dairy industries, the Department of Agriculture, all these folks are in existence to keep people buying their products, even though they may not be healthy for them. And so it was pretty easy to walk away from my dairy heritage. We are not, I tell my patients who are eating dairy, go look in the mirror. You got big ears and a snout and whiskers, and are you a baby calf? If you're not a baby calf, if you are, great, enjoy your milk. If you're not a baby calf, don't be eating baby calf growth fluid. That's what this stuff is, and it promotes growth of all sorts of tissues you don't want to promote growth in. So all the way around, it was time to leave the dairy in the dairy case there. And it's getting so much easier today. There's so many great non-dairy substitutes to put on your sandwich and on your salads. There's really no need for that archaic industry, and we'd be better off without it. Truth is, the dairy farmers should do something else with their land.
Well, that was going to be the next question that I had. Dr. Michael Klaper here on the Real Men Eat Plants podcast. Looking at from your history of growing up on a dairy farm, how do you look back on that industry now as an adult and someone who's kind of seen the data and the evidence?
Oh my! I mean, that's such a powerful question. The answer is so powerful. And that one of the earliest memories I have. I spent my first 16 summers at my uncle's dairy farm. And when I was a little kid, 5, 6 years old, I remember these plaintive calls coming from the dairy barn. They go on for hour after. I didn't know what was happening. Well, what was happening was that a mother cow just had a baby calf. And the calf wants to suckle on the mother's udder, but that's stealing money from my uncle who wants to sell that milk to the dairy. So within 48 hours, the baby calf is scooped up and put into the veal pen 10 yards away from the mother in the barn. And the mother's locked up in the stanchion, so she can't approach the calf. And hour after hour, she bellows the most heart-rending, soul-tearing calls of a mother wanting to get to her child to nurse it. And there is no creating dairy products without this inherent cruelty. The dairy industry is an inherently cruel industry in many reasons, and this is the first act of cruelty. Every calf must be taken away from its mother. And all those cows in the dairy barn are new mothers with tears coming down their cheeks. You can really see it because they've all had their babies taken away from them. But to those folks who think that you don't have to kill the cow to get the milk. Yes, you do. No dairy cow dies of old age. Within 5 years of calves and milk, the milk production goes down. They are now a drain on the bottom line of the dairy producer. And so the cow's loaded onto the slaughter truck, taken to the slaughterhouse and shot in the head, and the flesh stripped from its bones and turned into ground beef. Most of the fast food burgers are ground up old dairy cows. And the truth is that the dairy barn is a short stopping off place on the way to the slaughterhouse. But the dairy industry is a slaughter industry. Even the little calves, they're all little male calves. They'll never give milk. They're of no real use to the dairymen. So at 16 weeks, they have their throat cut and turn into milk-fed veal. The veal industry is an absolutely essential offshoot of the dairy industry. It's a bloody industry. They're from taking the calves away from the mothers, slaughtering the calves, slaughtering the mothers. And it's a special affront against the females of the species. The forced insemination to make these cows pregnant, the taking away of their babies, the hormones that they're injected with. And it's the women buying so much dairy for their calcium, for their bones, to prevent osteoporosis. And they don't realize that every time they put that container of Greek yogurt or cheddar cheese in their shopping basket, they're paying to take another calf away from their mother, to kill another one of these beautiful, innocent dairy cows. It's a bloody industry that's an affront to the female of all species, and we really shouldn't be supporting it. It's archaic from the Middle Ages.
Then, Doc, just to follow up on that. Just to follow up on that a little bit. Yeah, you talk about all these horrors, and you're absolutely right about the dairy industry. My question is always why aren't we taught this at an early age? Why instead are the images that we have of dairy farms of laughing cows and sassy cows? By the way, that's like the name of two dairies right near here. And you see these pictures of these happy, smiling cows, and everything's wonderful. When the other thing, the opposite thing is really going on, why are we not taught that? Why are kids not taught that in schools?
My first response, are you kidding? I mean, the dairy industry doesn't want you to see this, doesn't want the public to know this. No, like Paul McCartney said, if slaughterhouses had glass walls, you'd all be vegetarians. The meat industry doesn't want you to know what goes on in the production of chicken meat, pig meat, beef, and dairy. These are slaughter industries, and it's grotesque and cruel. But you got these mega industrial conglomerates in the Department of Agriculture and the meat and dairy industries with multi-billion-dollar advertising budgets. You bet they're going to deceive the public with their advertising. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, like in The Wizard of Oz. Well, don't pay attention to the guy with the knife behind the curtain there and those screams you're hearing coming from behind the curtain. No, don't worry about that. Just eat your yogurt. Just eat your cheese. You need the calcium.
Yeah, and people will say that because they'll say that to me. Well, where are you going to get your protein? Where do you get your calcium? Yeah, and it's like, I ask, where do you get your fiber? Because I don't understand the question.
Exactly. And you get your calcium from the same place cows get their calcium. Right? When you think about it, cows don't drink milk. Where do they get the calcium? They get it from the green plants they eat. That's where it comes from. The calcium's a soil mineral. It's in the soil. The green plants take it up, and the cow consumes it in the greens that she eats. And so should we. And that's why you want big helpings of kale and chard and broccoli and Brussels sprouts every day on your plate. That's where not only your fiber is, but certainly calcium, magnesium, vitamin K. So many good things come from dark green vegetables. We have no more need for the milk of a cow than we do the milk of a giraffe. I said, would you pour rat milk on your cereal? How about dog milk? Why do we think that cow milk is somehow sacred and healthy? It's not. It's baby calf growth fluid, and it's filled with hormones. The cows are all pregnant now, which is really sad. If I have time to go into this, on my uncle's dairy farm in the 50s, when a cow became fertile, they'd lock her up in the stanchion and call the badger breeder guy and ram that tube of bull semen into her uterus. And she would conceive, carry that calf for 9 months, just like a human mother does. And if she had been giving milk, she'd dry up. Pregnant mammals don't lactate. There's a good biological reason for that. And my uncle just had to accept that. He'd pull out his notebook, bossy number 16, won't give milk till the spring, till she has her calf, and they recorded the date. Well, that's in the 1950s, we had 49 cows. In today's modern dairy industries, they're milking 1,000, 1,500 cows twice a day. They can't afford to have their best milkers go offline for 9 months while they're carrying their calves. So now they've genetically modified the cow, just science to the rescue. And now today's modern dairy cows will give milk even though they're pregnant with their next calf. And so they're carrying their next calf. Well, a pregnant mammal is full of estrogens, and it gets into all her tissues, including the milk. And so today's dairy products are made from the milk of pregnant cows, and they're full of estrogens. These are active estrone, estradiol, estriol, pregnanediol, progesterone. These are not the puny little soy-based phytoestrogen. These are official mammalian estrogens. And our little girls are going through puberty at age 8 and 9. The more dairy a boy eats, the more cheese a boy eats, the higher his risk of prostate cancer when he's an adult. It's toxic stuff. And there's bovine leukemia viruses in the milk. There's pus in the milk. It's not, I don't know how you can look at it as healthy. There's so many other ways to get your calcium and get your protein. We should move the dairy off our plate.
All right. Well, hey, Dr. Klaper, that's a great, I think, transition into maybe a little bit of a lighter conversation for those who maybe are, kind of tuning in for the first time to this podcast. But, and you're a man who's got a huge story outside of even just the dairy conversation that we had. So in 1987, the Jeopardy winner. So I want to kind of get into that topic. So if you would kind of go into that experience, tell us what that was like.
friend had entered a contest where the prize was a tryout with Jeopardy. They were in town in Tampa, and so he won it. But he picked up the phone. He called me. He says, "I'd like to give this to you." And so I said, "Okay." And so I showed up at the tryout, and they give you 50 questions. You have to answer in 3 minutes, I think. And the top 10 of them would be given Jeopardy-like interviews. And I happened to get all those questions right. And so they took you backstage, and there was a camera there to see how you'd look on TV, and played a little Jeopardy round there. And they said, "Don't call us, we'll call you." And sure enough, about the end of November, about 4 months later, the phone rings. "You've been selected. Come to Los Angeles, and you'll be on Jeopardy."
4 months.
So I showed up there, and it was challenging. There were some really smart folks there, but I was able to. I won 2 games. I lost on the third, and it was a lovely experience. I'm glad I got to do that, and I won. I got $11,000. I got the freezer as a consolation prize, and the Lee press-on nails. I got a year's supply of those as well, and that was the best part of the experience.
That was a game show standard, I think, in the 1980s. The Lee
that is definitely an experience.
Yeah, and, they popped up on Price is Right all the time and all that other good stuff. You know, you got camera time as well on some of those movies that I mentioned, like Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy, What the Health, and really memorable stuff. One of the things that I remember you saying too is, it's the food, and you kind of make it a real emphasis. And I want to know first, before we get to the "it's the food" line, how did you get involved with making movies like that? How does someone reach out to you, and is it something that you kind of embraced, or was something that you looked at originally and be like, I don't know, I'm kind of nervous about this?
Just the opposite. Just the opposite. I was working at True North Health Center in Santa Rosa, California, doing nutritional medicine, seeing how plant-based diets reverse all these diseases. And I get a call one day from the young man who says, we're doing a movie, and we'd like to come and interview you. I had no idea who they were. It turned out to be Keegan Kuhn and Kip Anderson, that were the producers of Cowspiracy. I had no idea who they were. And they came one day to the clinic and set up their cameras, and they asked me some questions, especially about dairy, actually. And we had lovely young men and shook hands, and they left, and that was the end of it. I had no idea what they were going to do with it. And about a year later, I get a call. "Do you know that you're in a film that seems to be pretty good?" And it turned out to be Cowspiracy, and made a big impact. And about a year after that, Kip calls me again saying we're doing another one. And it was they're just so right on, and the way they frame the context, the thrust of Cowspiracy was that if large-scale industrial agriculture is the driving force of all these environmental disasters we face, deforestation and soil erosion, water pollution, water depletion, it's all being driven by our lust for flesh and the animal agricultural industry that is spawned from that. Why aren't the environmental organizations saying anything about this? They don't want to talk about that, about the meat connection. And so good for them for bringing that out. Well, it turns out What the Health turns out is asking the same question about the medical profession. If a meat-based diet is driving all the clogged arteries and hypertension and diabetes and obesity, why aren't the doctors saying anything about this? And yes, that's exactly the question to ask. And along those lines, that's one reason we started our Moving Medicine Forward initiative. For the reason that must occur to you as me, aren't we taught this in medical school? Why didn't somebody tell me that these were reversible diseases? All I was taught, you must control your patient's blood pressure. You must control manage your patient's diabetes. Nobody ever said, would you like to make these diseases go away? Do you know type 2 diabetes can be reversed? Hypertension can be reversed. Obesity can be reversed. Why didn't someone tell me about this? And so I've been going around to the medical schools as part of our Moving Medicine Forward initiative, doing that very thing, talking to the first, second, and third year medical students and saying before you order another $1,000 scan, another $500 set of blood tests, ask your patient what they ate yesterday, because that's why they're sitting in front of you, doctor, obese and hypertensive and diabetic and clogged up and inflamed from what they're running through their bloodstream every 4 hours with the burgers and the buffalo wings and the pepperoni pizzas. The American diet has become toxic. Send the patient to the plant-based dietitian, let her do the counseling. You see them back in a month and see if they're not leaner and healthier. That's how medicine should be practiced in the 21st century. Why didn't someone tell me this? But we're telling it now to the students, and they are so appreciative. And one reason is because in every first, second, third year medical school now, and I've spoken to dozens and dozens of them across the country, in all those classes, there's now 20 or 30 students who've seen films like What the Health and Forks Over Knives and Cowspiracy. The light's on in these young students' heads, and that's so encouraging. And there's always some professors sitting in the back of the room saying, oh, this is too extreme, too radical. But the students know, many of them are vegan themselves already. So it's very hopeful, but I got to keep slogging away at the coalface there, lecture after lecture. If people would like to see I made a video of my lecture called What I Wish I Learned in Medical School About Nutrition. It's on my website, drklaper.com. Just click on our Moving Medicine Forward link, and you can see the message I'm delivering to the med students. And it's, I think, the most important message in medicine today.
Yeah, and I love that message, and I'm glad that you're doing something like that.
Nutritionally aware, yeah.
Yeah, because, it's kind of funny if you watch Cowspiracy and then What the Health After, you kind of see Keegan's journey, where he thinks that he's starting as a healthy person and he's recycling and taking shorter showers and he thinks he's eating healthy, to by the end of What the Health, I mean, he's full on vegan. At the end of Cowspiracy, he's saving a chicken rather than wanting to eat one. And by the end of What the Health, he's almost like, full on vegan. And, I kind of like watching that path. And I'm guessing in your teachings, your lectures, and what you're doing, are you finding similar paths of people? Are you starting to see like that tide kind of turn? I mean, I love that you're talking about medical students now that are kind of getting that, and some of that nutrition based education. But are you starting to see that a little bit more? Are we starting to see the tide turn?
Oh, absolutely. The tide is starting to turn. Every time I give one of these lectures, and I'm at the University of Washington, the University of Colorado, and I was at Harvard, and University of Buffalo, all over the country. In fact, around the world. I've lectured in Australia and New Zealand and in Europe, in Poland and Lithuania, and they're all waking up. We're all interconnected now, and they're all waking up to the plant-based message, because they want the tools to reverse disease. When you're a young med student, man, what do I need to clear that pneumonia and control that diabetes? Well, this puts the most powerful tool of all in their hands. It's the food. That's what the patients are eating. And once they get that, a whole new world and a whole new empowerment happens in these young minds. And I get nice words. We're open to all health professionals. The dentists need to know about this, the nurses, the pharmacists, the physical therapists. They're all dealing with patients with diet-related diseases. And if they can all start helping their patients evolve to plant-based diets, we'll become a healthier nation by far. And we're trying to create a generation of nutritionally aware doctors who always have, by the way, how's your diet these days? What are you eating? Take me through yesterday's eating day. How wonderful if every doctor asked that of their patients on every visit. So that's what we're trying to create, and the students are very open to it. They know something's up. It's not 1950 anymore, thank heavens.
Absolutely. And so, Doc, talk a little bit, if you could, you mentioned some of the stuff you're doing, the master class in plant-based clinical nutrition, the website. How can people get involved if they want to learn from you, if they would like to take part in some of these classes, and what you do? How do they get involved?
Sorry, you're cutting out here, Rich.
I apologize. Yeah, I was just talking about the master class that you do, the lectures that you do, stuff like that. How can people get involved? If someone says, "Hey, I want to catch one of these,"
yeah, I think we may have lost Rich there for a second here. I'm not sure where he wanted to go with that, Doc. So
Sure.
I'll just kind
Okay.
of dive
There it
in
is.
with another thought. Hey, Rich is back. Did you
Yeah,
have a
sorry about
question?
that,
We
and I
kinda
guess I
lost you
can
there.
edit this out a little bit later on. But
Good.
that's
Okay.
the good thing about taping these things in advance. So I was asking more like about the master class you do, the lectures that you do. If people would like to get involved, if they would like to be a part of it, if they would like to learn from you, Doc, how do they go about doing that? Is it just as simple as going to your website? How can they take part?
Appreciate that. Thank you. In furthering my desire to reach, especially my fellow health professionals, I said, if I had them all in an auditorium, especially young med students, here's how a plant-based diet affects the cardiovascular system. Here's how it affects the GI system. Here's what to do with your colitis patients, your Crohn's patients, with your diabetes patients. So we did a series of master classes for largely a health professional audience, though we get lots of the lay public that's been taking them. And we've had very nice comments on it. If people are interested, again, go to my website, drklaper.com. You'll see it in the notes here, and it's all spelled out, doctorklaper.com. And you will see, on the landing page, you'll see Masterclass in Plant-Based Nutrition. Just click on that, and you can see, you can take the entire 12 lecture series, or you can just take individual ones. They each last about 90 minutes. And so I invite people to participate in that. And if you wanted to know what we're doing in our Moving Medicine Forward initiative, click on Moving Medicine Forward. You'll see where we're going, what we're doing, and how people can help. We are supported by donations, and all help would be accepted. You're gratefully accepted. You're contributing to create a new nutritionally aware medical profession, which is so sorely needed. It's an investment in all our health.
Terrific stuff, Doc. We thank you so much for being on. Dr. Michael Klaper, and we'd love to have you back sometime as well again. So thank you so much, Doc.
Oh, it's a privilege. And it's so, let me just say what important service you are performing. We've got the sciences in here. Then what's needed now is education, is encouragement of the public, is enlightenment public. And you are the crucial
100%.
link to that. This is a powerful form of medicine we're all practicing today. It's an honor and a delight to work with you. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Keep up your great work.
Thank you. We're trying our best. Dr. Michael Klaper, thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We appreciate it, Doc.
Hey, Doc.
So I would say now,
Is he still there?
if Doc is still here, I was just curious. I wanted to throw this out there. Before. Do you have a